Firefly X. This is the action camera I have so eagerly waited for, and it's finally here. Does it live up to the high standards of the mother company called Hawkeye? I know, you're here to find out, and I'm not gonna make you wait. Hey, welcome everybody, Tech for Road channel. My name is Michael, and you're watching this footage which is recorded with the Firefly X, the action camera that we're testing today. Warmest welcome to the channel. This is where we inspect cool tech, and that's an action camera which I'm waiting for already maybe a year and a half, something like that, and it's finally here. This first section of the video, where we talk about pricing and positioning, I'm gonna actually use for testing the microphones of this action camera, because yes, the Firefly X has an embedded microphone, but it also supports an external one, and Firefly were so kind to send me also a conversion cable. Trying to find it somewhere in the pockets, but as usual, I don't know where it is. There it is, coming out. There it is, this conversion cable. Something fell down, never mind. So this is the conversion cable. Basically you can connect to this 3.5mm jack any kind of lav microphone that you want, and the even better part is that I could connect this while the video is still being recorded. So theoretically now you should be able to hear everything from this external microphone, which very often is helping the people to choose whether to buy an action camera or not. Now, covering the first section using these microphones, we're going to talk about pricing and positioning. Then we're going to move on to the hardware. After that, we're going to speak about performance, software, and so on. This action camera has been sent to me by Firefly themselves, but I'm going to keep this video to my high standards of being unbiased, truthful, and based entirely on my experience. And straight to the point, this action camera at the moment of releasing costs $159, and in the next minutes, you know, I'll justify my opinion why I believe that this is too much to ask from the current condition of the Firefly X. And by the way, this review we're making together, I mean me and you. Me because I'll be testing apparently everything that you want, because a week ago I've posted something in the community tab asking you what you want me to test. There have been a lot of ideas and suggestions, so I'll take the next minutes in order to fulfill as many requests as possible. Now, in terms of pricing, $159, and the closest competitor, which is better, is obviously the DJI Osmo Action, which when heavily discounted you can buy for around maybe $250, and the regular price is kind of twice more than the Firefly X. And probably the better, cheaper alternative, I would say that's the Vantop Moment 6S, which is kind of the same as the SJ8 Pro. While the SJ Cam model costs around $189, the Vantop at the moment is still at the ridiculously low $149 with more accessories than the Firefly X, and I believe that's a better value package. Now, I think you already have a good idea how the microphones are working, so let's move on to the rest of the hardware. The Firefly X arrives in a carrying case of excellent quality, and it is designed to host the main unit and some of the most important mounts and accessories. The case is not officially waterproof, but looks like it can withstand some water drops, which feels good. Overall quality seems to be kind of okay. Inside, we find first this leaflet, all of the other action cameras of Firefly in a nutshell. Down here is the Firefly X, surrounded by the not too many accessories. I was expecting a little more, but looks like Firefly have decided to prioritize being tidy instead of being too generous. So that's the whole content of the case, and keep in mind that the microphone and the Type-C to 3.5mm jack have to be purchased separately. The Firefly X is IP66 certified, at least that's what they say, meaning that it is not good for swimming and diving. According to the IP66 definition, it is dust tight, and protected against heavy seas of powerful jets of water. So right here we can see the most significant hardware limitation that we get with all the ring, the Firefly X. There is no waterproof case with the assembly. It might be that the camera is being able to withstand being immersed in water, but I haven't tried that myself because look at the details. The battery door seems to be popped out by probably half of a millimeter and seems to not perfectly align to the body. And the side door is a little wacky too. Yes, both of them seem to have rubber isolation, which definitely looks like preparation for being waterproof, but I don't trust that, and in the ads there were no references about supporting underwater shooting. Furthermore, I didn't find a menu of color modes about underwater shooting. The display here looks larger than on a GoPro, and it is 2.35 inches, touch with a lot of functions. On the inside there's the Umbrella H22 chipset, same as the one used in SJ8 Pro and SJ9, and the Mocha Cam and the Vantop Moment 6S. I haven't seen this one doing outstanding job yet, so we will thoroughly test that with the Firefly X. There's a Sony image sensor, a 1200 mAh battery, and the weird fact is that it weighs 123 grams, which is a little less than a mid-range smartphone, which is significantly more than the previous Firefly model. Looks like some heavier and perhaps higher quality materials have been used on the inside. The suspect here is the lens. Also, Firefly points to the good temperature tolerance, working between -20 and +60 degrees. On theory, we should expect really decent performance, especially with the widely advertised gyro-based 4.0 stabilization. Let's power on the X and check the menus. The display seems to be very bright, and after testing it for a while, it remains visible even in the sunny outdoor conditions, something that we can rarely see with budget action cams. The menus are well grouped and remind a lot the operation of the Firefly 8 SE, which was the first Firefly action camera with a touchscreen. We can see the resolution support up to 4K at 60 frames per second. However, this one can work without electronic image stabilization, which means that it will look rather shaky. And I guess usage of this mode is limited to being on top of a gimbal or if the camera is in still stand. The image stabilization is available with 4K at 30 frames per second, and if the conditions are very bright, the footage looks really good. But if we compare the stabilization to GoPro Hero 8 or DJI Osmo Action, it simply is not good enough. Furthermore, I believe that the SJ8 Pro series are doing slightly better in that area. Since I only tested with the 2 initial firmware versions, that might be way better at the time you are watching this video. The few shooting modes are easily accessible from the main screen, and you have the options to quickly switch between videos and photos with swiping actions, similar to the GoPro Hero and the DJI Osmo Action series. There only are 2 buttons on the body, and while navigation is easier from the display, you can still access everything using the buttons too, something really important for good underwater shooting experience, which again, I couldn't test yet because of the lack of a waterproof case. As usual, Firefly have packed a handful of good features, and you can fine-tune the footage any way you like by adjusting the exposure, the contrast, ISO, color mode, even the shutter speed. It is not often to see shutter speed control, and that can make your shooting style very cinematic, and made me think that lens filters are supported. Confirmed by Firefly, some DJI Osmo Action filters can fit. Recommended are these PGI Tech filters. I mainly have filters by Freewell, which are screw mount based for the DJI Osmo Action and unfortunately won't be compatible with the Firefly X. But that's potentially a very big advantage and the first sub $200 action cam which arrives with good shutter speed control. If you want to know more about specific features that I haven't covered, just ask me in the comments below, because I believe it is fair to focus more on the performance, because it is not quite there yet. First of all, if you're used to working with GoPro or DJI devices, this will feel like a serious downgrade in terms of user experience. Nothing is close to smooth, and while the display responds well to touches, something doesn't feel right, simply doesn't feel reliable enough. And the worst part, speaking of reliability, is how unstable the firmware is. Yes, I have been testing with the first 2 initial versions of the firmware. There have been multiple freezes, where I actually had to remove the battery in order to get the camera working. Most likely, this has something to do with the gyro, so I recommend trying the gyro calibration menu before you start using it in order to reduce potential problems. But generally, my experience with the Firefly X was close to the many issues I've experienced with the SJ8 Pro at the first stage a year and a half ago. The battery life is currently another unimpressive area, being very inconsistent, and for a few full shooting rounds at 4K it was hard to record more than 30 minutes of footage until it reaches the red zone. Some words about the footage quality, and you can already see some footage side by side with the most popular action cameras at the beginning of 2020. Note that at wide-angle mode, with lens distortion correction and stabilization on, the angle of view is rather narrow, even compared to the Osmo Action. The ultra-wide-angle mode supports no stabilization, unfortunately. The Firefly X did outstanding job shooting ice and snow, and to me the colors look very accurately represented and the whole winter scenery well captured. But looking at the urban footage, the situation is not quite right. Colors are too warmish, image stabilization is in my opinion not good enough, and while in 4K it's acceptable, the 1080p at 60 frames per second is not satisfactory. That resolution and frame rate seems to be quite a bad idea for now in low light shooting, and that has to do with the shutter speed, which goes much higher in order to support the image stabilization, and that worsens a lot the quality. There's a zoom feature, one of your requests from the community tab. Baka, I didn't forget to try that either, it's just a software zoom. You can do that on a photo at any point of time, but in the video mode it is possible only with the gyro off, kind of limiting. Probably the low light footage is the biggest disappointment here, being too grainy and with too much noise. We've seen better from Firefly, and the 8S series were recognized as some of the best action cameras for low light performance. Fingers crossed for getting this improved with the next firmware updates. Looking now at the smartphone app, which is actually quite good, I still don't get this low rating in Play Store, and the Wi-Fi transmission is also well responsive, which is not a surprise considering the experience of the company in the UAV related products, and one of the few smartphone apps that have a landscape mode, no live streaming mode to social media yet. Now, my tough verdict, knowing that the Firefly X was supposed to appear in the end of 2018 and has been postponed for such a long time, they should have done better, especially about the firmware. Yes, very good and sharp videos in certain conditions, a lot of modes, shutter speed control, fine-tuning possible during video shooting, which is quite unique, and these connectivity options for FPV, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but the hardware here is not much better than the hardware of the SJ8 Pro, released in the summer of 2018, and the many freezes I got, combined with the less accessories, no true waterproofing, and the lack of an underwater case, make the price of $159 rather intolerable. And honestly, knowing so well the fantastic Firefly R&D team, it hurts me saying and seeing all that. I really hope that by the time you watch this video, most of the problems will have received their resolution, and maybe somewhere in the description you're gonna see some notes about that, so make sure to check that and also look for a link to the best possible deal about the Firefly X that I found. As usual, I'd love to keep up the conversation about action cameras and this particular model in the comments below. Hopefully all that was useful, and together with wishing you a great day, a big thanks for liking and subscribing to the Tech4O channel. I'm Michael. Gonna see you soon. Cheers!